What we're going to do today is we're going to fire up the motor after we dropped it in. We have all the components attached. We've made sure all the fluid levels are correct, antifreeze and oil. We leave the cap on loosely so that after we fire it up and run it, we can watch till the thermostat opens up, at which time we'll have to add more antifreeze. The oil that we use is a straight 30 weight racing oil from Pennzoil. We also add in from Lucas Zinc Plus, which is a racing engine break-in lubricant. So we add that to the oil also. Now the sequence of events is very important. We didn't put the distributor in yet because we have something very important to do. We have to prime the oil pump. To prime the oil pump, you need an old distributor shaft, or from a place like KD Tools, you can get this fake shaft that's keyed right here, and it drops into where the distributor goes, and it slips into the top of the oil pump where it's keyed. Put a drill on it, turn the drill in a counterclockwise rotation for a Pontiac. All other GMs, it's clockwise. And you do that until you've actually got oil pressure. And we have a gauge in the car, so we're going to be able to see when it gets up to 40 pounds per square inch or better. All right, we've got the shaft located into the oil pump. We've attached it to the drill and we're ready to go. Now, if everything's successful, we should be able to go inside the car, look at the gauge, and see 40 to 60 pounds per square inch. So here we go. Ready? This is the end of the shaft. As you can see, it's keyed right there. And if we could look down inside of there and look at the top of the oil pump, you would see a receptacle for that. And let's try to get a picture of that. And you should be able to see the top of the oil pump from there. Okay, the next step is we have to install a distributor. To do that, we've got to get the engine timed and set to top dead center for #1 cylinder. To do that, we have to turn the engine over by hand. We'll actually cheat a little bit and use the key to bump it ahead until we're approximately there. And then I'll take a 1/2 inch ratchet with a 3/16 inch socket, and I will rotate the engine the rest of the way until we're right at 0 on the timing mark here. And we'll give you a close-in shot of that when we're done with that. Once we've got it at top dead center and it's ready to go, we can install our distributor. But it's important to note the top dead center mark will come up there twice. Once on the compression stroke, once on the exhaust stroke. You have to get it so that it's at the compression stroke. To do that, you have to remove the valve cover over #1 and watch both of the rocker arms, the intake and exhaust. When both of those rocker arms, the push rods, have pushed the depressed all the way down, the valves will be seated at that point, both of them. That's top dead center. It's ready to fire. And then we set the mark on 0 here, and we're ready to install our distributor. Okay, now I'm going to turn the engine until it gets up to top dead center. So we've dropped the distributor in, and the rotor is as you can see, is pointing at about the 1 o'clock position. If that's 12 o'clock, it's about 1. And the advance unit is pointing at about the 8 o'clock direction. And that's approximately where it's going to be. So now what we do is we put the hold down clamp for the distributor in place, and we're going to tighten it down approximately, hold it in place so it's stiff, but I can still rotate this. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the distributor cap on. And this is where the #1 cylinder is for the distributor cap. So we have to make sure that this is exactly where that rotor is pointing. And that's the next thing we're gonna do. So we're gonna put it on so the #1 on the distributor cap is lined up with where the rotor is right now exactly. So put this on and we're going to turn. I took a notice that the rotor is pointing over to the corner of this gatherer unit there. Take that, turn that a little bit, and we should be right on the money. Now I'm going to tighten down the distributor cap. All right, now what I've done is I've gotten directly above it, and I've got this screwdriver lined up right directly above the rotor. I know where my #1 is, and now I'm going to put the cap in there, and I can see I'm off a little bit, so I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to double check. One more time. One more time. A little bit too far, turn it back a little bit, and right there. Now keep in mind, this is only to rough it in. When we started, we got the timing light on that mark. we'll put it exactly where it's supposed to be, which for a GTO, I believe, is 8 degrees before top dead center. So the next thing we do is tighten down the distributor cap. And now that's on there nice and solid. This distributor here, if you haven't noticed from the wiring, has been converted to electronic ignition. It's actually got a system in there called the Mallory Unilight, and it eliminates the need for points. Points, of course, is a major source of issues for people with these old GM distributors and generally cars in the 60s. Okay, this is a Pontiac V8 firing order. It's the same for most Pontiac V8s from like 64 all the way up to the 80s. It's different than other GM products in that the distributor rotates counterclockwise. So if you're an experienced Chevy, small block Chevy or big block Chevy rebuilder and you're doing one of these, make sure you take note that the distributor turns counterclockwise. So that means from the number 1 firing position, from number 1, it goes to number 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, and then 2. Not the other way around. Otherwise, you get a big backfire coming at you. So what we're gonna do right now is, we're gonna take the spark plug wires and line them up. We'll start with number 1. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the spark plug wires and we're gonna line them up by size. So the longest one, I'm gonna put where number 2 is. We've actually got 2 wires that are long, so we're gonna do the number 1, number 2, and number 1 with the long wires. So let me pull those out right now. So here's the number 1 spark plug wire position right here. We're gonna run it over to number 1 firing position, which I said is right above that door where my thumb is. And plug it in. And you can hear it snap down in there if you got it in there correctly. And there it is. Now you can put these in the loom nice and neatly while you do it, or you'll probably end up adjusting it several times while you do this. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in place. And there we have it. Then I'm going to double check to make sure its pathway is not obstructed, doesn't hit the throttle or anything like that. So now we have number 1 in place. Now, according to the firing order, the next one is number 8. All right, so right now we put number 8 in place. That's the next one in the firing order. So we put it next to the number 1 cylinder right there and put it in place. And we put them nice and neatly in these looms. Of course, you keep in mind you can adjust the looms later. All right, so the next one, according to the firing order, is going to be number 4. So number 4 being right next to number 8. We'll choose the next size for that. So we plug it into number 4, put it in the proper place in the loom, and drop it into the number 4 spot on the distributor cap. All right, we'll take up a little bit of the slack so it looks nice and neat. All right, the next one is going to be number 3. We've already plugged into the number 3 cylinder over there. We're going to drop it into the number 3 spot there, and we're all done with that one. So after number 3, number 6. And I'm going to double check. Number 6 is the second position over there. Try that with a short one. In it goes. Boom. And voila, number 6. All right, perfect. Okay, after number 6 is number 5. And that should take a short one, I think. All right, and it goes. Snap into the loom. And into number 5 spot on the distributor cap. Make sure you feel it snap in down there. All right, beautiful. All right, so we're good on that. We only got 2 left to go. Next up is number 7. So number 7 is going to take the shortest wire that I got left. Goes a little difficult because of the steering wheel shaft. And that goes in there, up through here, down around, and into the number 7 spot right there. And it just snapped in, so we're good on that. And we should have only one left. I'm going to take a chance and call it the number 2 cylinder. Yep, that's it. Okay, so the last one we got to do is number 2. So we plug it in, run it through the looms, snap it in, insert it into the distributor cap until we hear it click, and bingo, there it goes. Now, last thing you do is make sure you plug in the coil to distributor center wire and slide the boot over the top so it's got a nice watertight seal, and we're done with that. Now, we've got 2 vacuum sources that are open that we'll have to plug for the starting of the engine. This one here goes to the air cleaner and to the ram air system for this GTO. So I've used a drill bit, the smooth side of it. I've seen some people use screws. You shouldn't do that, because the screws actually leave a space for the vacuum to get sucked in through the threads. So make sure you're using a smooth bore circular object to plug it. The second thing to plug is the distributor advance. And that's this piece here. Same thing, I did it with a drill bit. Okay, so we're ready to start the engine, and of course we're going to need to time it during the first few seconds that it's running. It's going to idle fast. It should idle fast because the choke is closed and the coil down there, the bimetal coil, is completely contracted. And as the car warms up, it'll expand, and of course this valve will open up little by little. When it's fully open, we know the engine's hot. And then we watch for the water here to start running. That means the thermostat has opened. Once all that's happened, while that's all going on, we're going to time it with a timing light. The timing light's got 3 connections. It's got a negative and a positive, which just merely clip on like this. And I'm going to make sure that the cable's on there nice and tight. And of course, we have to operate it from this side of the engine over here, so make sure that your cables don't run into where the fan is. Now, I like to put them on the other side of that latch just for safety's sake. The other cable that you have, the inductive pickup for number 1, I'm going to run that over the top of the engine this way, again, away from the fan. Some of these inductive timing lights, they have a directional arrow on the top. This one does not. So I'm just merely going to take it and put it in its upright position and clamp it over number 1. So it's loose over there, and again, it's an inductive thing. It'll pick up the pulse through the insulation. So I'm all set at this point to go ahead and try to fire the engine up. Now, I've got the distributor loose, so I can turn it with some effort, like that. And then when it's right exactly where it needs to go, I'm going to use this special wrench to tighten the bolt down so it can't be turned anymore, and tighten it down so it won't come loose. So at this point, we're actually ready to fire up the engine. So without further ado, I'm going to go in the car and I'm going to try to start it. Okay, now that we've got the engine timed, for this car, it's 8 degrees before top dead center at 1,000 RPM with the vacuum hose disconnected to the distributor. So now we can hook that back up. And we can hook up the air cleaner with the ram air. Of course, the ram air is not going to work until the hood's in place, but that's the next thing we'll do after we put the air cleaner on. Alright, so there you have it. We got it running and purring like a kitten and roaring like a tiger when we smash it. And we let it come up to run. We let it run about 20 minutes to burn it in. Got the revolutions up to 2,500 to 3,000 to hear how it operated. It was smooth all the way through the RPMs. Anyways, our next step is we have to put the hood on, connect up the ram air components, the vacuum for that to make sure that the under the dashboard control cable for the ram air is functioning. And we're ready for springtime, baby. Bring it on.